I want to be honest with you before I say anything else. I am not sure you came here expecting to be told something true. Most people don't. Most people come looking for something that will make them feel like they still have time to fix what they already know is broken. I cannot give you that. I am too old for comfort. I am too old for telling people what they want to hear. My name is Margaret Elaine Farrow. I was born in 1838 in Culpeper County, Virginia. I have buried a husband, 2 of my children before they reached adulthood, a sister I did not speak to for 11 years over a debt that neither of us should have let stand between us, and more neighbours and friends than I can count with both hands. I have sewn my own burial clothes by lamplight, not because I was morbid, but because I did not want to leave that task to anyone else. I have outlived so much of what I once thought was permanent that permanence itself feels like something I misunderstood when I was young. I am telling you this not so you will feel sorry for me. I do not want that. I am telling you so you understand what kind of woman is speaking to you right now. I am not a woman who has been sheltered from hard things. I am not a woman who learned her lessons gently. Everything I know, I paid for, and the price was high, and I paid it late. And that is the thing I cannot get back. So sit with me, just for a while, because I have something to tell you that you will not like hearing, and I have earned the right to say it plainly. I was 23 years old when I married Thomas Farrow. He was a good man, not a soft man, but a good one. He worked hard, and he kept his word, and he came home every night. In those days, in that county, in that life, those things meant a great deal. They still do, though people seem to forget it now. We had 3 children in 6 years. William first, then Clara, then James, who came small and stayed small, but grew up sharp-minded and quick-footed in ways the others weren't. Thomas died in the spring of 1867. Pneumonia. It came on fast, and it did not let go. He was 31 years old. I was 29. The war had only just ended. The whole countryside was already stunned with loss, already half emptied out. One more grave did not seem to stagger the world very much, but it staggered mine. I want you to understand what that moment did to me, because I think it is important. I think it is the beginning of the part of the story I need you to hear. When Thomas died, I made a decision. I did not make it consciously. I did not sit down and say to myself, "Margaret, you are going to close something off now." But that is what I did. I looked at those 3 children, and I looked at the land, and I looked at the very small amount of money we had, and I decided that the only thing I could do was be hard, be practical, stop spending energy on feelings and spend it on survival instead. I believed that was the right thing to do. I believed that was strength. I was wrong. I was not strong. I was just absent. I was present in the house, but absent from the people inside it. I kept us fed. I kept us sheltered. I worked until my hands cracked and bled in winter. I did every single thing a mother was supposed to do in that era, in that place, by that standard. But I stopped being someone my children could reach. I thought I was teaching them how to endure. What I was actually doing was teaching them that love is something you withhold when life gets serious. William learned that lesson. He learned it the way children always learn the lessons we do not mean to teach. He learned it deep in his bones, the way you learn something that is shown to you every day rather than said out loud once. I want to talk to you directly now, because I think some of you already know what I am describing. You have told yourself that being responsible is the same as being present. You have confused providing with connecting. You have come home every night and worked hard and kept your word and believed that was enough. And maybe it is enough by the old measure, by the measure I was raised with, by the measure that says a parent who does not abandon their family is a good parent. But I am here to tell you that by the measure of what actually matters, it is not enough. It was not enough for me, and it is not enough for you. Your children do not need a house. They need you. Not the version of you that is managing everything. The version of you that is actually there, actually seeing them, actually allowing them to matter to you in a way that you let show. If you are withholding that, whatever the reason, whatever the pressure, whatever the fear, you are making the same error I made, and you will pay for it the same way I did. I am not saying this to be cruel. I am saying this because I am 90 years old, and I have had 60 years to think about what happened with my son. And I have not spent one single year of those 60 years believing I was justified. Not one. William was a serious boy, quiet. He had Thomas's eyes and Thomas's way of watching people before he spoke. He was not easy to know. He kept things inside, and for most of his childhood I told myself that was simply his nature. I told myself he was fine. I told myself the distance between us was just the distance between a grown boy and his mother, the natural kind, the kind that happens when boys become men and stop needing their mothers the way they once did. That was a lie, I told myself, because the truth was too uncomfortable. The truth was that I had built the distance, over years, one small withdrawal at a time. Every time he came to me and I was too tired or too busy or too focused on the next necessary task. Every time he tried to say something and I cut it short because there was work to be done. Every time I corrected him when he needed to be heard. Every time I responded to emotion with practicality because I had trained myself to believe that emotion was something you couldn't afford. I built that distance with my own hands, and then I stood inside it and told myself it was his nature. You are doing this too. You are building distance and calling it something else. You are calling it busy. You are calling it the way things are. You are calling it just how we are with each other. And maybe you believe that. I believed it too. But the distance you are building right now is real, and it is going to cost you. The argument with William happened in the autumn of 1871. He was 22 years old. He had been working alongside me on the farm for 3 years since Thomas died, and he had done it without complaint, without credit, without much acknowledgement from me at all. I expected it of him. I told myself he understood. I told myself that hard times required hard work, and the children who were raised right understood their duty. He wanted to leave. He had an opportunity to go west with a group of men from the county, some of them older than him, some of them younger, all of them looking for land or work or a different kind of life. He came to me and told me he wanted to go. I did not receive it the way I should have. I told him that leaving now was irresponsible. I told him that his brother and sister needed him here. I told him that this was not the time for chasing after something better when there was work that had to be done right here. I spoke to him the way I spoke to everything in those years, which was with the certainty of someone who has decided that their own judgment is the only reliable thing left in the world. I was not cruel in the way people think of cruelty. I did not shout. I did not strike. I was just cold and certain and utterly closed to him. He stood in the kitchen and listened to everything I said. And then he said very quietly that he supposed that was that then, and he left the room. I thought that was the end of the argument. I thought he would come around. I thought we would go back to the regular shape of things in a few days, and it would all settle down the way things usually settled down. He left 3 weeks later. He packed what he had, and he went. He did not come in to say goodbye. He left a note on the kitchen table. Clara found it. The note said he was sorry, and that he loved his brother and sister, and that he hoped I would understand in time. He did not say he loved me. He did not say he hoped I would understand. He hoped I would understand in time. Not me personally, just that things would make sense. That was the gap. That was the distance I had built right there in that letter, visible to me finally, now that it was too late to close it. I want you to feel what I am telling you. There is a version of you that has already had that argument. You have had that cold, certain, closed conversation with someone you love, and you walked away from it thinking that it would settle down, that they would come around, that there would be time to address it later when things weren't so hard. You are wrong. Not always, not necessarily tomorrow, but in some cases, in the cases that haunt people, you are wrong. And the terrible thing, the thing that took me 60 years to fully absorb, is that you cannot know in the moment which arguments are the ones that end things. You cannot feel it. It feels like any other hard conversation. You do not get a warning. You do not get a signal that says, pay attention, this is the one that matters, this is the last time, this is the moment you need to be different in. It feels exactly like every other disagreement, and then it turns out to be the last one, and you spend the rest of your life knowing that if you had just been softer, just for that 1 hour, just in that one room, everything would have been different. That is what I carry. That is what I have carried for 60 years. Not the hardship, not the poverty, not the grief of losing Thomas young, not the hard years of working the farm alone, with children too young to help much. I carry an hour in a kitchen in 1871 when my son stood in front of me and needed me to see him, and I looked right at him and saw only the inconvenience of his leaving. 1 hour, 60 years. That is what I am trying to tell you about the math of regret. I did not hear from William for 9 years. In those 9 years I told myself many things. I told myself he was stubborn. I told myself he would write when he was ready. I told myself the fault was his, that a grown man who understood duty would not leave his family the way he had. I arranged the story in my head so that I was the one who had been failed, not the one who had done the failing. I was very good at this. I had a lifetime of practice at being the one who had endured things rather than caused them. Clara, my daughter, who was always sharper about feelings than I ever gave her credit for, told me once, about 4 years after William left, that I needed to write to him. She said I knew how to find him, that we had an address from a letter a mutual acquaintance had passed along, and that I was wasting years I could not get back. I told her it was not my place to write first, that he had left, that when he was ready to behave like a son again, I would be here. I said that, out loud, to my own daughter, about my own son. I was not strong when I said that. I was afraid. Afraid that if I wrote and he did not write back, I would have to stop pretending it was his stubbornness keeping us apart and start admitting it was mine. Pride is a very effective way of hiding from the truth. It lets you feel righteous while you are quietly dismantling everything that matters. Pride will make you lonely and call it dignity. Write that down somewhere. Carry it with you. Because I did not understand it until it was too late for understanding to change anything. I wrote to him in 1880, 9 years after he left. I do not know what changed in me. I think I had gotten sick that winter, sick enough to believe for a few weeks that I might not recover, and something about lying in that bed with the possibility of death close by made the story I had been telling myself finally feel too thin to hold, too thin and too cold, and too much like the life I had actually lived rather than the life I had told myself I was living. I wrote to him and I told him I was sorry. Not the way I should have said it. Not fully. Looking back at that letter now, all these years later, it still reads like a woman who is apologizing but still protecting herself, still managing the apology carefully so she does not give too much away, still treating vulnerability like a liability, still, even in the act of reaching out, keeping the distance I had always kept. He wrote back. That surprised me. I had not been certain he would. His letter was kind and careful. It said the right things. It said he was glad I had written. It said he thought of the family often. It asked after Clara and James. But it was thin. The letter was thin. And that thinness was my own thinness, reflected back at me from 20 years of watching me be exactly this way. He had learned from me how to say the right things while keeping the real things locked away. He was my son, and he had learned it well. We wrote to each other after that. Not often, once or twice a year. The letters were dutiful and affectionate in a surface way, and I told myself it was something. It was better than nothing. It was at least contact. I told myself we would say the real things when we saw each other, when he came to visit, when I went out west, which I never did, when the time was right, when things settled. The time was never right. The visit never happened. He died in 1903. He was 54 years old. His wife wrote to me. She was kind. She said he had spoken of me. I believe she was being kind rather than accurate. I was 65 years old when I got that letter. I sat with it in my lap for a very long time. I do not remember how long. I remember it was afternoon, and it was summer, and the light was coming through the window at a long angle the way it does in July. And I sat there, holding that letter, and understanding, finally, completely, without any of the protection of pride or certainty or the story I had told myself, that I had lost my son in a kitchen in 1871, and that everything after that had been living with the consequences of 1 hour I did not know was final. Let me tell you something about the moments you do not recognize as final. They do not announce themselves. They look like ordinary days. They look like an argument you have had before. They look like the same distance you have been maintaining for years, just one more iteration of it, just the ordinary texture of the relationship as it has been. You do not hear a door close. You do not see anything change. The room looks the same after as it did before. But something has closed. Something has shifted in the person in front of you. Some last small willingness to keep trying has quietly run out. And you do not see it. You cannot see it because you are inside your own certainty, inside your own version of the story, inside the comfortable numbness of telling yourself that things are fine, or that they will improve, or that there is always more time. there is not always more time. That is not a thing I am saying to sound wise. That is not a lesson I learned from a book or from someone else's pain. That is something I know the way you know the weight of a thing you have carried for 60 years. There is not always more time. The people you love do not stay available forever. The window in which a thing can be said or repaired or opened does not stay open forever. It closes, sometimes slowly, sometimes all at once. And after it closes, what is left is just the shape of what could have been, and you have to live inside that shape for the rest of your life. I am asking you to believe me, not because I am old and therefore wise. Old people say foolish things all the time. I am asking you to believe me because I have paid the price for this particular error in full, because I know exactly what it costs, because I am standing on the other side of that cost, telling you that you do not want to pay it. There is something else I want to say. Something about strength, because I think strength is something people misunderstand in the same way I misunderstood it. I was told all my life, by the life I was born into, by the time and the place and the expectations of a woman in that era, that strength meant endurance. It meant continuing. It meant not falling apart. It meant keeping the household running and the children fed and the work moving forward regardless of what grief was sitting in your chest. Strength, by that measure, was the ability to function in the presence of pain without letting the pain show. I was very strong by that measure. But I want to tell you what that strength cost me, in the actual human terms of a life. It cost me the closeness of my children, who grew up with a mother who was present but not reachable. It cost me whatever my marriage might have become if I had known how to let Thomas close in the years we had, which I did not fully do, because I had already started building the walls before he died. It cost me the sister I did not speak to for 11 years over something that, when I finally look at it plainly, was about pride and not about the debt at all. It cost me 60 years of wondering whether my son knew I loved him before he died. That is what strength cost me. You think strength is what protects you. You think keeping yourself controlled and managed and functional and unshakable is what will get you through. I thought that too. I was wrong. What looks like strength when you are inside it looks from the outside, from the distance of decades, like a wall. Just a wall. And walls do not protect you from loneliness. They produce it. I thought I was strong. I was just far away from the people I loved. I want to speak now to those of you who have a version of my story in your own life. You know who I am talking to. You have a person in your life, a child, a sibling, a spouse, a parent, someone, and there is distance between you. Real distance, not just physical distance, the other kind. The kind that builds over years of small withdrawals and unaddressed arguments and conversations you did not have, and the steady accumulation of silence where closeness should have been. You know it is there. You can feel it when you are in the same room together. You can feel the things that go unsaid, and you are waiting. You are waiting for the right time, for things to calm down, for them to come to you, for the anger to pass, yours or theirs, for something to change in the conditions that will make it easier to say what you know needs to be said. You have been waiting in some cases for years, in some cases for decades. I am asking you to stop waiting. Not tomorrow, now. Whatever version of that letter I finally wrote exists in your life. Write it. Send it. Go to them. Call them. Say the thing. Say it badly if you have to. Say it imperfectly. Say it in the wrong words with the wrong tone at the wrong time, because that is still infinitely better than not saying it at all. The perfectly worded apology that comes after someone is gone is worth nothing. Absolutely nothing. It sits inside you and has nowhere to go, and it just stays there. I know what it feels like to have something to say to someone who is no longer able to hear it. It feels like trying to walk through a wall. It feels like the most useless thing in the world. It feels like having been handed something valuable and setting it down carelessly and coming back to find it gone. Do not do that to yourself. Please. I am 90 years old, and I have had 60 years of knowing exactly what that feels like. And I am telling you, with every authority I have earned through everything I have lost, do not do that to yourself. I think about the kitchen often. Not just the argument, the whole kitchen. The way it looked in the mornings when the children were young and Thomas was still alive, and the light came in through the east window before the day got serious. The sound of it, the smell of it, the particular feeling of that room when it was full of the people I loved, and I did not know yet how impermanent that fullness was. I was too busy in those mornings to be present in them. I was always moving to the next task, the next necessary thing, the next problem to be managed. I was never still enough to just be in the room with them and let that be enough. I did not know that would be enough. I did not know that those ordinary mornings were the thing. I was always working towards something else, and that kitchen full of people was just the background of my life, not the point of it. The kitchen is empty now, has been for a long time. There is no one in it but me. And I would give everything I have ever endured, every year of hard work and survival and strength, every single thing I am proud of having managed and maintained and gotten through. I would trade every bit of it for one of those ordinary mornings back. Just one. Just to stand in that kitchen for an hour and know what I know now. Just to be still in it. Just to let the people I loved know that they were the point. That they were always the point. That is the thing I did not know until it was too late to do anything about it. Duty is not love. Presence is not closeness. Surviving is not living. Endurance is not enough. The last thing I will say is this. People who come to the end of their lives and say they have no regrets are either lying or they did not love anyone deeply enough to lose them. Regret is the price of love. It is the evidence that something mattered. I do not begrudge my regret. I have come to understand it as the most honest thing in me. But I do not want you to carry it the way I have. Not because it is unbearable. I have borne it. But because you do not have to. You have the one thing I no longer have, which is time. You have the one thing that makes the difference between a regret you carry and a mistake you correct, which is the possibility of a different outcome. I cannot go back to that kitchen. I cannot sit down with William and tell him what I should have said. I cannot unsay the cold certainty with which I refused to see him that day. I cannot send the letter I should have sent in 1872 instead of 1880. I cannot undo 9 years of pride.